Hello, welcome back to the Property Pilot. Today we're talking about remortgages, refinances, what actually they are and how to refinance property and pull out money so you can put that into your very next property. So welcome back. Today we're talking about remortgages, how to refinance, and a really important part of the property investment process. A lot of people ask me questions about refinancing and they don't really understand how it works. And I didn't understand how this actually worked until I'd actually done it myself. But it's very, very simple. And once you understand the concept, it's really key to the scalability of your property portfolio. So first of all, let's start off by defining what a refinance or what a remortgage actually is.
Okay, so what is a remortgage? What is a refinance? Well, first of all, they're exactly the same thing. They're interchangeable terms: refinance, remortgage. So when we've got a mortgage in the first instance, whenever that fixed term is coming to an end, we have to what's called remortgage or refinance onto a new mortgage. So essentially, refinancing or remortgaging is simply just taking out another mortgage. Now, I see this as normally quite a positive thing, because after my initial 2-year or 5-year fix on my initial mortgage that I'd taken out, most likely the value of this property would have increased within those 2 or 5 years. So when I'm asking for a new mortgage, 2 or 5 years down the line, I can ask for a mortgage on the value of the property on its present day today, not what it was 2 or 5 years ago. So what this means is I can take out 75% of that additional value of the property. So we'll come on to all the maths and all the figures very, very shortly. But generally speaking, I see remortgages as a huge positive thing, because normally it allows you to take some cash out of that property, should you so wish, to then scale and put towards your next deposit for a next property.
Okay, so now we need to talk about why refinance, why it's really important to refinance, or why actually remortgage or refinance in the first instance, and then the whole of the rest of this video will make a bit more sense, okay? We refinance because typically speaking anyway, our fixed term mortgage, so we could have taken out a mortgage in the first instance that was maybe 2 or 5 years, and that was a fixed period. So we're actually coming to the end of this fixed term mortgage and we're remortgaging to move on to a new mortgage, okay? Because if you let that mortgage just lapse, it will go on to what's called a variable rate, and typically speaking, the variable rates are really expensive. How they normally operate is base rate plus X%, and it's quite a high markup. So that's why people in most cases are forced essentially to refinance or remortgage, because they're coming off their fixed terms. But again, you may want to refinance actually ahead of the expiry of your current mortgage, okay? And there's lots of reasons why we actually want to do this. So let's say, for example, we've got a 2 or it doesn't really matter. Let's say we've got a 5-year fixed mortgage, but actually we're only 2 years into this mortgage and we want to refinance. We want to refinance early onto a new mortgage. And the reason why we want to do this, for example, let's just say, are a couple of reasons. So first of all, we've added value to the property. Maybe we've done a slight refurb, or we've spent money on it, which increases the value of the property. And maybe we actually want to pull out some of that value, some of that cash, to do something else with that cash, maybe invest it in something else. Another reason why we might want to refinance early is maybe in those areas, capital appreciation over those 2 or 3 years has been phenomenal. And again, combine that with the value that we've added to this property via refurbishment, we want to pull out that appreciation and that difference and that added value. And we're willing to pay a fee and do this early, but to take out that additional value that we've created and we've experienced through capital appreciation. So, we may have to pay early repayment charges to our current lender on our current mortgage to exit that and move on to a new mortgage, but it could be well worthwhile, say if we're paying maybe £2,000 in early repayment charges, but we're taking out £50,000, well actually, that's not too bad, and you can probably live with losing and taking a hit on the £2,000 to put that £50,000 and deploy that to better use. So I hope that makes sense. There are lots of reasons why we want to refinance or why we want to remortgage. So let's come on to the examples and let's make the maths really easy so we can all understand how this actually is carried out. Let's assume we've purchased a property for £100,000, okay? And obviously we've purchased this with a mortgage. We've got we've got a mortgage on the property. And let's fast forward, say, 5 years' time. This property is now worth £150,000. And let's make it nice and simple. Let's assume we've done no work to the property, but the property's in those areas have appreciated in value, and this property is now over £150,000 because that area has gone up in value, okay? And this is 5 years down the line. We can remortgage, and well, we should be remortgaging because our fixed term is coming to an end and we don't want to pay that extortionate variable rate, okay? So, 3 to 6 months before that your fixed term expires, you want to be having those conversations with your mortgage broker. And again, if you're looking for a mortgage broker, head to my website www.ms7.uk and I'll put you in touch with the brokers that I use, I like, I know and I trust. £150,000 is what it's valued at, okay? So we can take out 75% of the new value of this property. Of course, there'll be a survey or valuation done to confirm that it's worth what we think it is, okay? But let's look over the figures. So in our first instance, 5 years prior, we purchased this property for £100,000, and let's just say we borrowed 75%, we've got a 75% loan to value. So that mortgage is £75,000. Nice and easy, right? Now, fast forward 5 years, £150,000, and actually we want to do this, the exact same. We want a lender to lend to us on the same loan to value, so 75%, but of today's market value, which is £150,000. Let's do the maths. 75% of £150,000 is £112,500. So that's what our new mortgage could be, and that's the cash that could be, coming to us minus what we've got to pay off our current mortgage. Okay, so let's do the figures now. So let's just say the lender's happy with the value at £150,000, and they're going to lend us 75% of that, £102,500. But we need to pay off our existing mortgage, which is £75,000. So the maths is obviously really simple, right? We're getting £112,500 minus £75,000. Well, that's £37,500. And that's the difference between our current mortgage and our new mortgage. And we can get that in cash, which is absolutely phenomenal, right? It almost sounds too good to be true. And this is why some people don't understand remortgages and refinancing, because it's just so hard to grasp the concept that a lender is going to give you £37,500 cash in your account, just because a property has gone up in value over time. So happy days, we've got this £37,500, and obviously, as you know, we can put that into another property, and quite easily we can buy one property with those funds that we're now getting from the balance of the mortgage. Okay, so as you know, £37,500 in the north anyway is enough to purchase a property and put down a 25% deposit. So that's great. This refinance has just allowed us to buy another property. How crazy is that? Now, there are various considerations to think about. Now, this is an example which is very easy to follow, but actually you may have other fees to pay for and other fees to account for. So I'm going to list these and describe them briefly. So these fees may reduce that, net £37,500 that in this example you've received. So first of all, as I already alluded to in this video, you have early repayment charges, ERCs. And if you are exiting your current mortgage early, you most likely have to pay a fee, and these can range from anywhere between 2 to 5% of the loan you took out in the first instance, okay? But if you're not remortgaging early and you're willing to see your fixed term out and then remortgage once that expires, then you don't have to pay any early repayment charges, right? Which is great. Okay, what other considerations are there to think about? Well, actually your new lender, so the new mortgage that you're trying to obtain, could come with various fees. Again, there could be a product fee, an arrangement fee, an admin fee, whatever they like to call it. There's lots of different names for this fee, but essentially it's a fee to take out the mortgage. And as I record this in December 2022, mortgage offerings have changed quite slightly. So now we're seeing product fees of between 2 and 3%, whereas prior to all the rate hikes, in mid to late 2022, you were looking at product fees of around 1%. So, these product fees are things you've got to account for. Again, you can add these to the loan and you can add this to the mortgage, so you don't have to pay these up front. But again, there are a few lenders that will require that you pay these product fees up front. We've got admin fees and product fees to think about. We've also got other fees like legal fees and survey fees and valuation fees. Again, some lenders will require us to pay for these. It could range from anywhere from £500 to a couple of £1,000, depending on which lender, depending if they're a mainstream lender or if they're a bit more of a specialist and a niche lender. So again, other costs to think about when you're remortgaging, but generally speaking, these aren't extortionate costs, and providing you're not remortgaging too early, you're not going to have massive fees to account for. So we've gone over some considerations when it comes to refinancing and remortgaging. Well, how do we actually, refinance the property? What are the next steps? Marco, I'm ready to refinance. I'm thinking about remortgaging. How should I proceed? Well, here's what I recommend. first of all, work out the figures. And again, you may need to speak to a mortgage broker to do this, but work out the figures. What do you want your property to be valued at? In fact, I should probably rephrase that slightly. What is a realistic valuation of your property, right? A lot of people think their property is worth this, when actually it's worth this. And the surveyor comes around and tells you, well, I'm sorry, it's not worth that. So, you need a realistic valuation. Of course, you can push it slightly, but in today's market, surveyors especially are being more cautious rather than optimistic. So have a good idea of the valuation of your property, because once you've got an idea of the valuation of your property, then you can work backwards. So again, if we're getting a 75% loan of this new valuation, what is that loan? Okay, now we've got the loan amount, what is the interest rate we're paying? And then you can work out your monthly payments, and etc. And you can make sure that the numbers all stack up and work for you and hit your criteria. Again, once you've understood what that loan looks like, you can then work out, well, okay, my new mortgage is X, my current mortgage is Y. What is the difference? Minus the early repayment charges, if applicable, minus all the other fees that you may need to pay, if there are any fees. And again, what am I left with? Hopefully you're left with a cash surplus that you can take out and do something meaningful with. There are some cases when actually you'll be required to put cash in. Maybe you purchase property in the boom phase, and it comes to refinancing, and actually we're in a recession and values are fallen, and you have to put money in to make this property work. Okay, so it's not always a surplus. Sometimes there's a shortfall, and you'll have to contribute to that. But again, you can limit yourself here by buying property at the right price, by buying below market value, but by buying with a large margin of safety, should I say, rather. You're protecting the downside, and if values do fall, which they will do, let's face it, well anyway, I think they will fall in the next year or two, then even if they do, it's not the end of the world, and you won't be in negative equity. So I hope this brief video has helped you understand refinancing and understand remortgages. This is a question I get asked literally, I'd say every other day, but not just from investors, for people that have their own live-in home that they occupy themselves. It's their own family home. And again, this is a great way to release, I suppose, equity in your family home by remortgaging and by refinancing and pulling some cash out and putting it into property or whatever investment vehicle that you so choose. Again, there are different ways of doing this, and this video isn't all about that. Maybe I'll make a video about that in the future if there's demand for it. So, if you're struggling to still understand the concept of refinancing and remortgages, I'm more than happy to help. I've helped lots of people do this. I can do it on the back of a fag packet very, very quickly and give you some headline figures, and then you can see if it's feasible or not. Speak to your mortgage broker, find a really good product, and you can take it from there, and fingers crossed you can refinance and pull some cash out and do something really meaningful with that cash. Again, I hope you've enjoyed and got value from today's video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.